Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Overthinkers Society, a podcast where this random ass girl from South Korea just happens to make music and have been able to fortunately turn doing music into a career and decides to do a little podcast where she just rambles on about some of the traumas of her life. to just aid in her journey of living as a chronic overthinker in this crazy ass chaotic world. Welcome. This is a good time. This is a good chill time and just sit back, relax, and enjoy some gal rambling about some of the shit going on in my life. Let me just close the door because closing the door might be a little bit crucial for today's episode, because today's episode is about the person who is asleep right now in the other room, my mom. She's currently asleep, and it's very not likely that she's gonna wake up from me mumbling into my phone, but just to make sure. Also, she doesn't speak English, so it's just like that's just like a double safety. Just a double safety. It's not like I'm gonna talk shit about her or anything. I love her. I love my mom, but it is this episode is gonna be about my biological mother, mommy. Before I further dive into what I'm about to talk about today, I feel like this is something as like kind of like a precautional measure of precaution, just to kind of tell myself as like a little meditational mantra. This is purely just for me, just to remind myself not to lose control, not to just turn into some sort of manic episode and end up going into some toxic thought chain while I cover the topic I'm about to cover. And the mantra for myself is, Sue, nothing really matters. Nothing really matters. This is just life. Just another human being. Your mom is just another human being. Your sister, your dad, everybody is just a human being, and nothing really matters. This is just one life. Just another human being trying to like figure out how humans work and how we can interact in a better way. But it really doesn't matter. It's okay not to figure it out. It's okay. You don't have to have any answers. There is no answer. And the purpose of this recording is not to figure something out, not to solve anything, but to just document that this is just another dynamic of a relationship between you and your family members as just another human family. That's the mantra. You don't need to get sucked into some crazy ass deep, like, oh my God, life is so fucked up. Life feels so serious. Life feels hard. Family relationships are so hard. My life's a struggle. Oh my God. It's such a pain. I can't handle that. No need to turn into a dramatic, lumpy princess. It's okay. This is just one form of documentation. That's the mantra that I'm telling myself prior to going further into this episode. Okay, with that being said, today I've got on my mind something that I think is it's very, I feel like, the last episode I thought I was getting real personal and vulnerable and intimate. This episode, I feel like, I really didn't think that I could top that. But yep, that's not how it works. There's always something new. There's always a new reminder from life that it's not an easy feat to live as a human being. And today I want to talk about my mom and her alcoholism. I'm very careful not to kind of. Okay, well, let me just revise actually. Today's episode is about my mom and her relationship with alcohol. Well, I feel like relationship isn't even like the best option because it's like alcohol isn't some fucking human thing. It's not an animated thing. It's just a thing. It's just an object. Today's episode is about my mom and her interaction with alcohol. Yes, that feels a little closer to the essence of it. Let's see, where should we begin? Thinking about it, I sometimes I just realized, yeah, I don't actually like. If you think about it, I don't know if this is any different with others and their relationship with their parents, their moms or their dads or their grandparents, whoever they were predominantly like raised by. But I just realized that I've only just heard little fragments of my mom and her history as just a human person. Like I've heard little anecdotes, little funny stories that she's experienced, her past relationships, and little confessions that she's told me in hindsight that she at the time of it happening never really told me because I was too young or we were just not in the best relationship, so on and so forth. So what I'm trying to say is my perspective of my mom in today's episode is just purely based on my very limited knowledge, even as a daughter, of her and her life. I just realized it's a very limited window of knowledge. She's lived a whole ass life, 2-3 times longer than I have, and I can't even describe my own life so far. So like, let alone fucking 50-60 years of going through shit. So yes, this is what it's based on, and I don't. Very careful. I'm very cautious about how I put my thoughts and my experience with her into words because I care about her and I care about. It's not that she needs and wants any reputation, but she is my family and I'm her daughter, and I take pride in the fact that she's my mom and she's still very well and alive and very, very healthy, and she's she's great. But I also just wanted to talk about something that has always been a big kind of issue that I've always had to juggle as a daughter. And I think this is actually the first time I really sat down and decided to open up about this. Nobody asked, of course. Nobody really asked, as always. But I don't know. I think there's definitely some sort of this. Well, yes, there's this cathartic effect that comes from just sitting down and really like letting my thoughts flow out without any filtering about this matter. Because this isn't something. It's ironic how I'm uncomfortable. I've always been uncomfortable talking about this publicly. Let me start it going. Let me start it like it's very odd and very ironic how I've always felt really uncomfortable talking about this topic in private with like people like, like therapists, mental health professionals, and yet quite feeling liberated and almost at peace about opening up about this very publicly on this platform. I don't know what it is to it. Maybe I think I'm just maybe I don't know, maybe this is a subconscious kind of perspective that I have that, whatever that I put out, it's just going to add to other people probably opening up about their traumas and their life experiences that are probably, some of which are probably far worse and dramatic and just devastating than my own story. So maybe just by opening up, even opening up about something so heavy and prominent like this, for me, maybe I just think it's like I just want to know that I'm not the only one experiencing it. Maybe I just want to feel related by someone who might be like going through something similar or even worse, or in any way like in the same kind of caliber. As far as I remember, my mom has always loved drinking. Like she's always enjoyed it, and I can't really like. I've met very few people who doesn't enjoy drinking. I think that's kind of like the basis of this whole thing. Like where like alcohol is such a widely accepted form of of a coping mechanism in the entire world, and everybody kind of enjoys a good drink every once in a while. So I think growing up, it's never been much of a problem for me to see my mom always kind of having a little can of beer and some fried chicken. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong, actually. Pretty damn sweet. When you have that good soju or make a beer with some good ass Korean fried chicken. Damn, that's some good shit. Like I don't see any problem with that if you're having a good time. And I think alcohol or any other drugs or toxins that we sometimes turn to just cope with life can bring out different parts of ourselves. With alcohol, I think especially brings out that little, it just dramatizes everything, when you felt, if you felt like a little bit like crying, if you felt a little moody, you drink a little bit, and then the tears come out. Or if you're angry, you drink, you get angrier. So you shout. Or if you're happy and you're celebrating something, you drink, and it just makes the celebration that much more fun. So I think it's definitely a double-edged sword that I think it's a tool that we can all kind of use uh, for our own benefit or in any other way. And I think the effect of the substance that it has on us really always changes by the things that we were going through. And so I think I've had me and my family have had the majority of my parents' marriage, and while our family was kind of intact as a good four-member dad, mom, two daughters kind of dynamic, it has been a good life. It has been a good family life. Um, I have always thought it was personally a pretty healthy family life. I mean, obviously, marriage, never experienced it myself personally, but I can't imagine it would be very hard to just kind of trying to keep up this really intimate and very committed relationship with this one other, your significant other, and trying to make that work can be super challenging. And I'm sure there are a lot of things that my parents never really showed openly growing up, just because they're being responsible parents and they don't want their children to see the ugly side of being an adult. So yeah, I think that's why I never really thought seeing my mom watching TV with a can of beer or some soju, and some good food at night after work was ever really a problem. I don't think that's a problem, even now. I think the problems started arising, though, when our family wasn't a family anymore. Yes, we're all going to be families forever. I will always be my mom's daughter. I will always be my dad's daughter. But, unless she decides to, like, disown me, as she always threatens me. If I ever get a tattoo, she always, like, threatens me that she's going to disown me because she hates tattoos. But I'm going to get a tattoo at one point. I just know it. And I know that she's not going to disown me. I know that. I just know it. This is just like a daughter kind of intuition. I just know that. But ever since my parents got divorced, the things have started to change a little bit, and I started seeing sides of my mom that comes out when she drinks that I had never seen before. And I think it's definitely gotten better. It's definitely gotten better. But something that has started out as like what has started out as like something like I would see these little ugly moments where my mom would just get a little bit verbally harsh and hard to communicate with, and unreasonably stubborn, such and such. As soon as like my parents decide to like go through this really difficult divorce, I thought this was going to be a phase. I thought this would just be like, obviously my parents are going through a hard time, especially my mom, after like my dad had an affair. Like I obviously this is a phase. Like it has to be, and I understand that. Like I can take it. I can take my dear mom just going through a little phase. I can tolerate her being a little dramatically emotional and sensitive, and it's okay. I think I can take that, and I want to be there for her. Um that thought, that event, that, like, that little determination, this little self this little what is it called, like self assurance that this is just going to be a phase, was almost like a decade ago. That was a decade ago, and I am a little bit sad to say that the the phase has not ended yet. That phase is still very much a phase. And I think I'm starting to think that maybe it's not a phase. Maybe it's a tendency. Maybe it's a really bad habit. Maybe it's an addiction of a sort. Um, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. A lot has happened. I mean, it's been a decade. It's a long time, and a lot has happened. Um, it's just the problematic things that I thought were just a little small phase that she's going through because of what she's going through is gonna end soon. But it seems like uh seems like it wasn't really the circumstances. It was more the problem lied in her habit of drinking. um and yeah, it's the circumstances have changed. My parents are divorced, and I've grown up, and my sister's grown up. My mom's career has changed. Our living situation has changed. Everything has changed so drastically since that decade ago. And yet she still has the same shows the same habits, habitual kind of actions when she drinks, which is which is every day. um I mean, I'm just kind of like maybe questioning if I should even like continue this episode now, because um I honestly don't know how I even feel about this. Like, I mean, it's not a pleasant feeling, and that feeling involves not just frustration, but also like I'm just worried about her. I think that's the biggest thing, because despite despite some of the hardships that we've gone through as daughter, mom, and sometimes I do to hurt her, and sometimes the things that she does to hurt me, that hurt me. Of course, not intentionally, but that's just with any relationships. We just end up hurting people, even without intending to. I'm just worried. Despite all the things that we have gone through, I still love her to bits, and I just know. I just know that she loves me too. And that's why I'm worried, because it's she drinks every day. She drinks every day, and it's kind of lonely, when it's this very weird feeling when you start to avoid her when when she's when she's drunk, because she turns into a completely different person. It's almost like she turns into a completely different human. uh, um and it's I've had I went through phases where, when I was kind of studying in this in the UK, uh I would only call her at certain time of the day or night, uh after calculating that this would be an acceptable time to call her, because she probably won't be drunk, and she probably will not have drunken any alcohol yet. So I think this is a good time to call her and like just let her know this is what's going on in my life. These are some of the concerns that I'm having, and I want to consult about this with her, because I love her when she's I love her. She's the loveliest woman when she's sober. Um and it just sucks that she isn't she's not necessarily the sweetest person when she drinks. And it's been a bit of a tough thing, kind of. The reason why I'm covering this now, and talking about this now, is because I recently just came back after a few months of a long extended stay in LA, away from my family, and I'm back now in South Korea. And I'm back home with my mom and my sister. And this is kind of the first time that I'm having to reface this little family dynamic that I had kind of forgotten about over the past couple of months. And so it's been it's been a few weeks since I came back to Korea, and um I'm kind of in the phase of readjusting and to this life of coping and living with my mom and her tendencies. It I'm I'm in a this is a dilemma, because this has always been a dilemma, where I this is not it's not something that I want to actively avoid. And growing up, I think the biggest difference is that growing up, I never really had the choice to avoid it, because I was young, and I didn't have the independence to distance myself from her her actions that can be sometimes kind of hurtful when she drinks. I just had to cope with it, and I think I've always thought this was just a little responsibility that I had as a daughter, and I was never mad at it. Um, I mean, of course, there were times when I would just like cry and just have to get over some of the things that she said, and I'm sure I probably have hurt her many times too, which led her to say some hurtful things back to me. It's all just a dynamic. This is not something that is this isn't something to blame on just one person. This is something that comes. This is a chemistry that is between me and my mom. And this is a two-way interaction and chemistry. But the point is, I never really had the option to avoid, and now I do. I'm not like the most well off person. I'm not like 100%, 150% independent. I'm still very unsure about my career and my life and how I'm gonna like figure out. I still suck ass at like adulting shit. I'm still learning how to drive. I'm still like learning how to like have a proper diet. I'm still learning how to like get a proper, like how to get rent, and I don't know. I'm still learning about that stuff, but I've definitely for sure gotten a lot more independent now, where I have now the luxury of being able to avoid confronting my mom and her drinking habits. It's just that even when I can, I don't want to, for various reasons. Well, the obvious reason, first of all, being that she's my mom, and I never want to neglect her. Obviously, to this, I feel like the obvious kind of social answer that I think my close ones and my friends, or the people around me that love me and support me, are gonna say like, yeah, but her problem is not yours, and you gotta put your mental health first before anybody else's, even your mom's. But I just can't. I just can't. I can't do that. I want to be responsible for it because I love her. So yeah, that's one reason why I'm recording this, and I'm trying to like figure out how I feel about it and how I should go about it. And yes, of course, constantly reminding myself the mantra that I told myself at the beginning of this episode, that, at the end of the day, this is just one life. This is just, nothing really matters. It really doesn't. I'm trying my best. We're all trying our best, and that's enough already. That's the first reason. I just love her, and I don't want to neglect it for my own benefit, and I want to make it work. And second of all, where's my sister? My sister is at this position where she's not yet has the ability to be independent. She's still very much a student, and she still very much relies on not just me, but our mom. So I think loving her as much as I love my mom, I think it's just not, I don't want her to be the one having to confront all these little problematic, stressful situations alone. Because she's gonna, if I leave, if I go back to Korea, if I go back to the States, if I go on tour, if I go do my own thing somewhere else, outside Korea, away from home, she's gonna be the one having to deal with all these things alone, and that's not, that I can't let that be. I mean, like, it's I think it's very fortunate, though, that my sister is not thank goodness, because like she's not much of an overthinker as I am. She would never do a rambling session about this matter. Like, I actually am the one always kind of relying on her to consult about this, and my mom and her drinking habits, because her answer is always like, dude, yeah, it's fine, but like, just if you're stressed, just go into your room and play some games or watch some anime or whatever. Like, why are you trying to fix these things? Why are you like trying to make it work if you can just If you've got your own room, you've got, like, if you just go, like, go out on a walk. Like, why are you choosing to suffer? Which I think she has a good point. And she she's definitely one of those people who puts what she says into action, and she practices what she preaches, and she has this superpower. I think it's a superpower personally, the superpower to, like, not think about things too seriously. And if she feels like, I mean, obviously she doesn't like her drinking. She doesn't like my mom drinking. We both are on the same page with that. She really does not like it. And she knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say she just gets way too oversensitive and overstimulated and just gets a little hard to deal with when she's drunk. She completely agrees with that, but she's one of those people who are like, dude, just get away from her. Just get away. But yeah, I just know that there's you can't not be stressed out when you're dealing with this alone. Even being my sister, I just know that. So yeah, these two reasons are, like, kind of the biggest reasons why I can't just neglect this and move on with my life alone. Um, I really don't. I mean, like, obviously, like I just said, I'm not trying to get to some kind of conclusion or some answer. Uh, but I don't know if, like, talking about this is actually helping me or not. Because I started this recording thinking that it could probably help me, like, have a little bit of a healthier perspective about this whole thing. And we just realized it's not much of a big deal. It's okay. Like, you're sometimes, this happens when I'm, like, in the midst of recording an episode of this podcast. I would realize, damn, like, I don't need to think too hard about this. And I could sometimes snap out of it and, like, come out of the recording thinking, like, damn, like, it really did bring me some perspective. And I really hope that maybe today that could have the same effect. But it seems like so far it's kind of making me feel a little bit more hopeless about the situation and more worried for my mom, and not just her, but for myself, but also my sister as well. I think one very big relief for me, at the very least, is that she is a very, very, very self-aware person. Sometimes she jokes about it, but sometimes she would just straight up, with a straight face, say, like, I have got a problem with alcohol, and it's not fun, and it takes a toll on my body and my health. And I'm just fully aware that I can't seem to control my intake. And I'm dependent on it. And she's very, very aware. And I think that's a relief. That's a big relief. And I think it's also a big relief that, if you haven't noticed, I mean, I don't think so far, thankfully, touch wood, I haven't done anything that made it really obvious the fact that I myself have started drinking a little bit more recently. Especially ever since I started touring and, went to the States and started meeting more people. So far, yeah, that's kind of the little, like, big change that has happened in my lifestyle over the past couple of months, over the past year. And I'm open about that too myself. Like we're a very open family, and we're always talking about um our little issues that we're dealing with, and we always talk it out. And I talk about how I've been drinking a lot more than I ever have to her, and she doesn't like that. And I think that's kind of almost a relief for me, like how she she's concerned for me, and I think that yeah, she's recently I've never drank with my mom until like since I came back from LA a couple weeks ago. Never did. It was I always jokingly said that I'm just kind of like a sober friend who will always take her back home safely when we go out to like eat and drink. Um, and since I came back from LA, we've started like drinking a little bit together, and we've been having a good time. And one night, a couple of days ago, we were drinking together at a bar, and we were both a little bit tipsy. We were both a little bit getting into it, and she was. Wait, no, that sounds weird. Getting into it sounds weird. That's fucking weird. Okay, take that back. That's weird. No, we're not getting anything. We're not getting anything anywhere. We're just having a good. We're just sat there and we're at a bar and we're just talking. That's what we were doing. And this is my like English as my second language coming out. It's like I sometimes blurt out phrases that doesn't really make any sense, and it's just so out of context. It just sounds good, so I just blurt it out and it just comes out in the most wrong way possible. Anyway, we were at a bar and we were kind of drinking and we were both tipsy. So this is usually the point, right, where if I was sober, I would be like, okay, here we go. This is probably the point where she's probably gonna say some shit that's like deep in her mind. I'm gonna get ready. Let's go. I'm gonna brace myself. On that particular night, I was also getting quite tipsy myself and getting drunk, and so I was like having a good time. And she says, "Look, Sue, I love going out and eating out and drinking with you and traveling with you, and I love hanging out with you, and I do too." To that I said like, "Oh my god, me too, mom, me too, of course," in Korean, of course. But after that she says, "But I don't want. I just don't prefer. I would not prefer it. I would prefer it if you don't drink as much as I do, at the very least, because I myself struggle with this little tendency, this little habit that I can't seem to easily get out of and break free from, and I don't want my daughter to go through the same pattern of relying on something, on a substance. And I think if she, that coming from like I think yes, that coming from from my mom in any state would have a lot of weight for me, but it coming from her being also like tipsy, a little bit drunk, was a big kind of relief for me, because I think what always has hurt me the most about her behavior when she drinks is that she makes it really, she makes it feel like she doesn't really give a shit about me, which I just know for a fact is not true. I just know that she loves me to bits. I just know it. I can feel it, and she shows it all the time. But damn does she make it really hard to believe when she's drunk. The things that she says, the tone in which she says things, it just makes it really hard for me to think that she really does care and loves me. So that coming from her saying like, I really don't want my daughter to go through the same struggles that I go through, as at the state that she was in, like being a little tipsy, was like just an amazing relief for me, because I just knew that at that moment, like, she does still care. And she knows, she's aware of the problems, and she doesn't want me to kind of maybe form the same habits that she has. I I love mornings. I love mornings and noons in Korea when I'm spending time with her back home, because she's so warm. And I get I at some point I started like getting scared when the time gets to like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. I get scared. I find myself getting a little bit scared and tense, because that's when she starts to drink usually. Speaking of which, my sister just came back from working out, and my mom, who was sleeping in the other room, just woke up. I can I can hear her like doing her drunk parent thing. It's just like just another drunk parent thing where it's like, oh, my daughter's bad. Let me kiss you on the cheek. I love you so much. I I think, I don't know how long I've been recording this episode. I usually want to aim for like 45 minutes to like an hour, but I just thought of something that I think would be a great way to like wrap up this episode. And I just feel like this is an appropriate time to wrap it up, so I'll just say it. I think my mom is as fucked up as it sounds, and I don't. Please, please. I really don't want this to like leave some kind of really bad like reputation or like impression of her, because I love her, and I really don't want to like, I don't know, maybe I won't put this episode out just for her sake, just for her safety and protection and her integrity. Not integrity, but dignity. I'm always confused between those two words. But just to wrap it up, I think my mom is the best kind of alcoholic in the world. As fucked up as it sounds, she's the best. Her, despite some of the challenging behaviors and activities and things that she says that sometimes are a little bit hurtful when she drinks, it really does challenge me, and sometimes it actually has triggered a lot of conversations that has strengthened our relationship thanks to that kind of tendency. And I think the verdict is, I think it is, and this includes me too, when I say this, I think it is quite selfish. It would be selfish of people to say, to think less of people who are struggling with addiction. And like, obviously, in theory, like, no one, I don't think, has actively, like, verbally, like spoken against people who are struggling with drugs or alcohol or substances. I think society is generally, at least on the surface level, very accepting um and not forgiving. I don't think it's something that's like, it's not something that you can like say like that's completely fine. But I think socially speaking, it's a very, it's people are empathetic of people of others who are struggling with addiction, and I think that's great. But also, I just know that in a more minuscule basis, it can actually cause a lot of people stress and negative perception. Um, like, for instance, like, just looking at it in a more like closed up uh standard, like my dad is just super duper against, has always been super duper against my mom or anyone drinking, just no alcohol. That is a sin. And I think people like that, people like my dad, who just are just absolutely unforgiving and thinks that addiction or usage of substances are something that can be completely like, is just a sin, and it's a vice that turns us into a fucking evil person. And it's a sign. Just because you're using substances, that's a sign that you have given into temptation. I think that perspective of viewing people who are struggling with these addictions are, I think that's a fucking ignorant way of viewing the actual reality of dealing with these problems. I personally think it is almost like a coping mechanism, like an excuse to just avoid it altogether. I'm not saying that I'm better than my dad or other people who live with similar views and opinions, but from as someone who has gone through the thick and thin with my mom and my sister, not just with substances or alcohol or whatever, but just through thick and thin of like going through life shit. As someone who's gone through all that, I think it's just a coping mechanism and an excuse to just like avoid the stress. Like, just to dismissively say like that's a sin, and this person has given into temptation, and this person is a sinner and an evil person and a bad person who is not a great influence or of any good use to society, and therefore we must avoid these people at all costs. That was like a genuine thing that he has always kind of spoken very actively and passionately about, kind of justifying his behavior of avoiding his relationship, avoiding any sort of drama, and confrontation or just effort to strengthen his relationship with his daughters or his ex-wife. I see it. I just know it. I just see it as that way because I've gone through a lot more than he did, interacting with substances and the user of substances around me, namely being my mom. Namely my mom. So I think yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. That's it. It's obviously like addiction is never a good thing. It just it can ruin people's lives. It can cause deaths. It can ruin things. It can ruin life. It can ruin relationships. It can ruin a lot of things. But I also just know that having dealt and currently dealing with kind of forming my drinking habits myself, it's not something that like, it's just part of being a human person. It's just, there's no right or wrong. And it's hard. Nothing really has changed since the beginning of this episode. Like, I will still like finish recording this and get out of my room, and I will still have to face the same things that has like that triggered me to record this in the first place. You know, like I'm still gonna have to deal with the behaviors that of my mom when she drinks. I'm gonna have to deal with the same things. But I think that's my perspective. That's my little newly updated perspective. It's just part of being a human. It's not like alcohol or drugs or marijuana or like whatever it's not. It's just something that is like just tempts us so much, and it works sometimes. And that's like, shit happens in life. I think we all want to be best versions of ourselves. You all want to, in theory, like in our heads, we all want to be that. Like, no, I've never met someone who was like, damn, I really fucking wanted to be addicted to marijuana. Like, I really fucking wanted to become an alcoholic. I've never met anyone like that. I think we all just want to be best versions. Like, that's just our human nature. We want to live a healthy life. We want to have healthy relationships. We want to have healthy lifestyle. We want to work out. We want to have great relationships. We want all of these things. Nobody not wants these things ever, including my mom, myself, my dad, my sister. No one. We all want to live a good life. It's just shit happens. Your husband has an affair. Fucking initiates a lawsuit that spans over a decade. An ugly ass mud fight. It's yeah. We're gonna need some coping mechanisms, and I don't care. I don't care if people have given into temptation. Because I just know, having seen, like, I don't have a great deal of experience dealing with people addicted with anything. But having seen my mom, I know that just because you've given into temptation, just because you sometimes have to rely on little vices that life just offers to like cope with things, doesn't mean that you don't want to get better. Doesn't mean that you're complacent. it doesn't mean that you don't no longer care about the people that you love and you care about. We're all trying. It's just hard to try sometimes for some people. Um I'm glad that I came to this little conclusion because I think that's it. That's like, I want to have compassion. We Moms go through a lot. My dad has too, probably. Like, we go through a lot as humans. I don't care if you're fucking Kim Kardashian. I don't care if you're Donald Trump. I mean, like, yeah, you can do some stupid shit, some really dumbass shit that can actually affect thousands of lives. That's okay. Maybe not Donald Trump. I don't know. Like, I actually don't know. Actually, I take that back. But it's just what I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what life circumstances you're in. We're all struggling and in our own ways. And just because you're not struggling with the same things that another person's struggling with, like, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Like, just because I don't have a drinking problem and I see drinking not as a great way of coping with life problems doesn't mean that it can just, it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. I mean, I don't know. I thought I was getting to something. I just, yeah, I think just going back to a more personal level, I think, okay, not gonna lie, I think my brain was kind of shocked and a little bit like, fuck, okay, that's not, I don't think I mean that, because I don't think I have any compassion for Donald Trump right now. Or, like, I don't know, I don't think I have any, actually, yeah, I'm gonna be upfront. You know what? I don't have any compassion for Donald Trump, or I don't have any compassion for Kim Kardashian because I don't know them. But one thing that I know for sure, going back to a more personal level, I think all I wanted was to just have a more sensible compassion for my mom. Because sometimes it do be hard. It do be. It's hard to be understanding and compassionate when you're kind of like yelled at for like no reason. It's hard to be compassionate when you're scrutinized for like saying a word. Like, I think I swore by accident in front of her yesterday, and like she was just like, she got really mad at me, like, yelled at me and shit, and like because it just do be when she just overreacts a lot when she drinks, really overreacts a lot. She just kind of like yelled at me in the middle of the restaurant. But all I'm saying is it's just really hard to be compassionate when your loved ones are just mean. Sometimes they can be mean, like I'm mean to my sister sometimes. I'm selfish, I'm mean, I'm a terrible person to my loved ones because I'm comfortable with them. But that doesn't mean I don't love them. And I'm sure that's how she feels as well. And I think that's all I needed to like realize today. And I did. We're all going through struggles, and We all have our little vices. Doesn't have to be, standard traditional vices like sex or food or alcohol or drugs. It could be toxic relationships. It can be manipulation. It can be overworking to a point of burnout. We can have all sorts of different vices, and I think we all do. I think it would be a very ignorant thing to say if one thinks that they don't have a single vice or a coping mechanism for life. Sure, I'm like super jealous of people who have very healthy coping mechanisms. But even those people, like, we all have little things that we're dealing with. We all have little problems. And just realizing that we all as individuals live with our own problems and our own ways of dealing with these problems. Just realizing that fact, I think, is enough to just have some compassion for your mom, my mom, and your friends and your family and your husband or your wife. I'm proud. I'm not like talking, look, maybe I am. I'm not talking shit about my dad, but maybe I am. But I'm proud. I'm fucking proud of me, my sister, and my mom for being the tight-ass three musketeers, us as a family having gone through the shit that we've gone through together. Because my dad was like, fuck this, I'm out of here. I can't deal with this shit. I can't be compassionate because you guys are sinners. I'm not going to try because I don't have to. No, bitch. You're just lazy. You're just avoiding this. You just want the easy route. And there is no easy route to developing a great ass relationship with someone. Doesn't matter if you're family or your friends or your husband or your wife. It doesn't matter. Your mom it doesn't matter. Every dynamic of a relationship requires a struggle. And by trying to like make things work and make things better a bit by bit, that's how we build our calluses as close ones and loved ones, and how we have an actual bond. Like, bonds don't happen. I don't think bonds can happen without little struggles, without little complications and confrontations and compassion. And I'm so fucking proud of all of us, me, my little sister, and my mom, for making it work, trying to make it work, and continuously trying to make it work. We're still in the process of it. But we're getting better at it because we've gone through that much together. I think that's why I'm actually like, feel like I'm able to face it. I don't want to avoid it. I don't need to avoid it because I don't want to, because I love them. And I know for a fact I'm going to spend the rest of my life, however much I've got left, however much any of us got left. I want to be with them. I want to call them my family. So yeah. Cheers to us. Cheers to us all of us, all of the addicts. It's hard. It's hard to live with it. It's hard to live with an addiction and all these things always like trying to like lure us into, hey, this is great. This will help you forget about your life problems. Doesn't matter if you're like turn into a little bit of a terrible person when you do this and that. It'll make you feel good. Like, cheers to us all for always having to like live with that little shit that like life has to offer us. All the guilty pleasures. Cheers to the people trying to always take little baby steps and always trying hard to just get that much closer to on that road of recovery, or finding a healthier way of coping with things. We're all trying. It's not just me. My sister's trying. My mom's trying. I just know that. I see it. Yeah, we slip sometime, but it's okay. We'll get through it. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening to yet another random ass ramble. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye bye. Ciao, ciao.